Hello, my name is Michael Holly, and I'm an Associate Professor of Environmental Engineering at UW Green Bay. I'll be presenting research from my lab on the long-term treatment performance of a pond wetland system treating agricultural runoff. Hypoxia occurs in southern Green Bay for 25% of the summer, impacting fish survival. Harmful algal blooms decompose on the lake bottom, consuming dissolved oxygen. In freshwater ecosystems, phosphorus is a limiting nutrient to excessive algal blooms, as seen in whole lake experiments by David Schindler. Lakes receiving carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus resulted in blue-green algal blooms in comparison to lakes fertilized with only carbon and nitrogen. The Fox River is the highest load of total phosphorus to Lake Michigan as calculated from watershed models. Phosphorus losses from agriculture is the main source of total phosphorus to Lake Michigan and is therefore a priority to reduce algal blooms. Edge of field best management practices can reduce nutrient loading through sedimentation. Edge of field practices are measurable and applicable to water quality trading programs, are scalable, provide year-round reductions, and have a lower adoption barriers over in-field practices. Saturated buffers, another edge of field practice, are used for the tile drain fields and are difficult to use for surface runoff. Wetlands are used extensively for stormwater runoff. However, previously, wetlands have been designated as 0% permanent removal without removal of sediment or vegetation. Stormwater ponds have been extensively used for urban removal and are effective for treating sediment and phosphorus. Sediment accumulated in stormwater ponds can be removed by dredging. Limited pond studies exist on evaluating treatment of agricultural runoff. Sediment P released from trapped sediment in stormwater could result in decreased treatment. Sediment P can be released through microbial processes when ponds become anoxic during the summertime. 39% of stormwater ponds in the Twin Cities have phosphorus concentrations in pond samples exceed upper extremes of phosphorus stormwater concentrations. Long-term studies of ponds for treatment of agricultural runoff is needed to measure downstream loading potential. In 2018, a sedimentation pond and wetland system was constructed to treat agricultural runoff near Wrightstown, Wisconsin. The watershed area for the pond consists of mainly agricultural cropland planted with alfalfa and corn silage, receiving liquid manure and supplemental nitrogen. Tile drainage is used to remove excessive subsurface water from the catchment and will also be treated by the pond. The pond was monitored by USGS and UW Green Bay. NRCS has developed sedimentation basin design guidelines. Surface area of ponds is determined from the settling velocity of a target particle and peak outflow. 5 years of sediment storage was included in the design, although not required by the design standard. Volume was determined from erosion mass estimated by SNAP-Plus and a trapping efficiency of 80%. The design includes an initial sediment forebay, 2 wetland cells, and a final sedimentation basin. Monitoring includes edge of field gauge stations for continuous monitoring of surface runoff, tile drainage, and effluent. Samples were collected automatically throughout rain events. Current data includes all storms from 2018 until today. In 2022, autonomous dissolved P and dissolved oxygen sensors were installed to measure phosphorus and dissolved oxygen every 3 hours to analyze internal loading to downstream water. Samples were analyzed by UW-Stevens Point Lab using required methods for suspended sediment and phosphorus. Loading and removal of suspended sediment and phosphorus was variable due to field management and storm intensity. From 2019 to 2022, the pond wetland system removed 100 to 378 pounds per acre suspended sediment and 0.2 to 1.2 pounds per acre of phosphorus. In comparison, cover crops were shown to reduce around 300 pounds per acre of suspended sediment. Pond wetland systems significantly reduce suspended sediment and phosphorus, as seen through the box plots for nutrient concentrations. From left to right and top to bottom are the plots for dissolved P, total P, particulate P, and suspended sediment for surface runoff, tile drainage, and pond effluent grouped by hydrologic gear. Median surface runoff concentrations for all parameters were significantly different from effluent. Only suspended sediment was significantly different between tile drainage and effluent. Nutrient losses through surface runoff and tile drainage were affected by precipitation intensity, peak runoff, antecedent dry period, and farming practices. Provided is the cumulative loading for nutrients and suspended sediment during the monitoring period. The top figures are of cumulative loading of phosphorus, and the bottom figures are cumulative loading of suspended sediment. The figures on the left is the influent to the pond wetland system by source, and the figures on the right is the effluent. The 4 R's of nutrient management, or right source, rate, time, and place, were influenced by phosphorus losses. In July of 2019, manure was applied to alfalfa, leading to a significant load of phosphorus to the pond wetland system in subsequent months. Field images were taken during manure application. Washing off of manure nutrients in this September event was impactful to cumulative P load. The September 2019 event had the highest rainfall intensity for the 2019 hydrologic year, also impacting particulate losses. The antecedent dry period before the September event was 140 days, facilitating particulate removal. The images below of the surface water influent to the wetland have visually high turbidity. In the late fall of 2019, an inline ripper, as seen through the images below, was used to reduce compaction and control moisture between an alfalfa crop and corn silage, resulting in increased sediment loading. The deep tillage resulted in significant losses of suspended sediment in the spring, and the pond wetland system removed 61% of sediment. Here are some images of the surface runoff illustrating high turbidity. To analyze if the trapped pond sediment nutrients are released over time, dissolved P and dissolved oxygen sensors were installed. The top figure includes a dissolved P concentration in orange and a dissolved oxygen concentration in blue over 2023. The graph in the middle includes the water temperature and precipitation. The bottom graph is the wind speed and dissolved oxygen. As dissolved oxygen drops in September due to elevated temperature and reduced wind speed, a spike in pond dissolved phosphorus occurs. An additional spike occurred in mid-October due to a drop in temperature and a likely release of plant phosphorus. Notably, pond dissolved phosphorus rarely exceeded the mean dissolved phosphorus concentrations measured in the tile drainage and never exceeded the median surface runoff dissolved phosphorus concentration. In 2024, anoxic conditions resulted in pond dissolved P concentrations in June near the median surface runoff concentration of 0.82 milligrams per liter. To determine if there is an impact of the release of trapped sediment P on treatment performance, the exceedance probability of dissolved phosphorus was graphed. Peak dissolved P concentration measured in the pond was around 0.8 milligrams per liter. We can see from the graph that pond dissolved P never exceeded median surface water runoff P concentrations and rarely exceeded the median tile dissolved P concentrations over time. In conclusion, pond wetland systems significantly reduce total phosphorus, dissolved phosphorus, particulate phosphorus, and suspended sediment, with 65% removal of suspended solids and 29% removal of total phosphorus. No internal loading in pond wetland systems occurred, and release of sediment P has minimal impact on treatment performance. Reactive media treating pond wetland effluent would result in increased removal of dissolved phosphorus, which was largely untreated with only 21% removal. Coagulant enhanced ponds could improve treatment with 88 to 91% removal of suspended sediment, 74 to 85% removal of total phosphorus, or $440 to $880 per kilogram of P removed. I would like to thank the following collaborators and the funding source, the USDA National Institute of Food and Agriculture.